Hi, I'm Ann Smith. I played on the women's tour for 14 years. I was #1 in the world in doubles in 1980, 1981. My highest ranking in singles was #12. I've won 10 Grand Slam titles, 5 in women's doubles and 5 in mixed doubles. And I'm here at the Little Mo Internationals at Westside Tennis Club in Forest Hills, and it brings back fond memories because 35 years ago I played against Billie Jean King on Stadium Court here. So it's really exciting for me to get to come back here. I never met Little Mo, who the tournament's named after, but I grew up with her daughter Cindy. And I got to see Cindy again. I hadn't seen her in forever, and it just brought back a lot of good memories. And so I was really excited to be able to come to Little Mo here and work with the parents and their children on the mental part of the game. And I introduced my Mach 4 system, which is body language, intensity level, mindset, and cueing language. So again, I was happy to be here, and I think everything went really well. It's great to be back at Forest Hills here, and I hope to come back again.
Right after this, we're going to have such a treasure of going and listening to Ann Smith talk about mental toughness. Either fearing to lose or wanting to win. The idea was you were still going to win, but if you go on the court fearing to lose, you get paralyzed. But if you go on the court wanting to win, then you can pull the big shots out. And you were always so good at that. Can you just address that? I think that's a big issue.
Yeah, the fear of losing, I mean, I think that goes back to the fear of making mistakes. What if I make a mistake? Right. So you make a mistake, let's get on with it, go on to the next one. I mean, I was very tenacious and very, most of the time, right? Certainly was not even close to perfect, but very tenacious and very competitive, extremely competitive. And of course I wanted to win. I mean, you know, that's really why we play the game. But if you go out there afraid and timid, it just interferes with everything you try to do. So again, when I had to tell myself, I don't care if I win or lose, I'm going to go out there and do the best I can. Do you think I cared if I won or lost? Of course. Of course I cared. But if I focused on that, if my brain focused on that, I didn't play well because I was too nervous and too anxious, you know, that fear of losing. So it comes down to, I think whenever you think about winning and losing, you've got to pull yourself back and saying, next point. You know how they always say about be in the moment? Next point, next point, next point. The champions aren't thinking way ahead. They're thinking 1 point at a time, and this is what I'm going to do on this point. What's the most appropriate thing to say to the child when they lose a match? Well, I would start with a question. How do you think? And again, I coach, and so I say, you know, how was your match? Terrible. I was terrible. Well, what do you mean? Tell me more. You have to pull it out of them, right? I mean, they just give these global, I was awful today. I couldn't hit the ball today. These global responses that you have to keep. But I think rather than, oh, it's okay, honey, or any of that kind of thing, ask them a question first. See how they feel about it. There's one boy in particular who how'd you do? Oh, I was just terrible in the first match, but in the second, third, and fourth, he wants to talk about those. And I said, well, what about the first match? What was different? And lots of times they can't tell you because they don't know. And that's giving you information. They need to know that. Even at this young age, you need to know what you could have done better and what you're going to do better next time. So that's where losing, making mistakes, is trying to teach you something. So it's all how the mindset, how you look at it. You know, you can go down the road of I'm terrible, all that, which doesn't get you anywhere, versus, gosh, I really need to work on my forehand approach shot, whatever it is. You got to learn. That's the whole point. And it takes years and years and years to be really good at it. So I don't know what I'd say, but I would start with a question. And every child's different. They all react differently. But I wouldn't let them get away with these vague, oh, he was just better than I was. No. What do you mean? What did you do well? What did you do well in this match? What do you want to work on? What can you do differently? What can you do differently the next time you play against this child? Or, you know, you're sitting watching and like this kid goes, I don't know, down the line on the backhand every third ball, but your child never picked up on it. I mean, I think that's important information to ask them and say, well, how is his backhand? And where did he hit it most of the time? Because they don't know, and they need, this is an education and they need to learn it. And you teach them things by asking them questions and getting them. And if they don't know, because most of the time the kids just look at me and I know, okay, I've hit something. And I say, well, you need to know that. You need to know what your opponent's best shot is. You need to know if they can volley. If they don't come up in the warm-up and they don't hit any volleys, what's that tell you? They don't want to come up and volley. Huh, maybe I'll hit them some short balls. You know, there's all sorts of things to learn. And if they don't ask for overheads, they don't plan to be coming up to net much. Right? So for all of you out there, even if you're not going to serve and volley or volley and hit overheads, do it in practice. Because you're giving your opponent a message. No, I'm just going to stay on the baseline. I didn't start playing tennis when I was 10. When did you start, Cindy?
10.
10, right. And now everybody's, you know, playing since they're 5. So it's kind of different now. But it's a total progression. And you want to see a progression. So that's what you're looking for. But I think it's important for example, I was in Arizona for a couple of years, and I heard a lot of the parents say, for example, they call them pushers, but I like to use moonballers. Oh, I don't care if my child doesn't beat the moonballer because they're not going anywhere. You know, my child's going to be better in 3 years. Well, I don't think that's a good attitude because a moonballer is hard to play. They're one of the hardest people to play. And guess what? I say to the kids who say, they're not going anywhere, I said, yeah, who won? The moonballer beat you. So don't be ragging on the moonballer because you have to learn how to play the moonballer. You have to learn what to do. There's an antidote and you got to find it. Not just, oh, they're not going anywhere, so it doesn't matter that I lost. No, you lost to a moonballer, so figure out how to play them differently next time. So it's a progression. And if you're always focused, again, if it's always about winning and losing, you're just going to be an anxious, you know, ball of nerves. No, it's no fun. So again, you've got to come up with cueing. It's about cueing and what you can say to yourself. And I ask the kids this all the time. Some will play, I'll go to my happy place. That's not what I'm talking about. What can you say to yourself that's reasonable where that next time you play, you can go out and play the best you can? And I think it goes back to body language, intensity level. If you're focusing on body language and intensity level, guess what? You're not thinking about winning and losing because our brain can't focus on two things at the same time. So it becomes, I'm going to go out in this match and I'm going to keep my intensity level, whatever it is, at a 4.0 on forehands, backhands, returns, serve. That's my focus this match. And see what happens. It's not easy to do. Again, you have to train yourself. But if you're thinking about forward or backward, you're not right there in the moment and you're not focused on intensity level, body language, and the things that you can control. You can't control winning and losing, but you can control what you say to yourself, how you carry yourself, and this attitude that you have, and the intensity level. The chances of being a pro at a really high level are pretty small. And if you have that, if your son has that goal, it's fine. Just so long as he practices what he needs to practice, he trains, he does everything. Because there's a lot of kids who say, oh, I want to be this and that, and then their behavior is telling me a different story. Okay? So that's number one. And if he really is into tennis and loves it and it's his idea, then you might consider, I mean, maybe a semester or something at Boletaire or whoever. And you have to separate out what's you're being nervous about him going versus him really wanting to go. Or do a couple weeks. Send him to a camp in Florida for a couple weeks or something. Yeah, I know he's your baby, but just try it. Especially if he really loves it. Because it's always best if the children, it's their idea. Because pushy parents, that's something about you. If you're too pushy in that commander style, it's something about you, and you have to be able to separate it out. I mean, again, I'm this recovering perfectionist, and I've had to learn as I coach not to put my competitiveness and standards, because not everybody has them. Not everybody can do it. So I have to make sure I'm appropriate in how I act, and so parents have to do the same thing. If you're all riled up all the time, then you need to kind of step back and say, why am I? It's one thing if your child goes out there and gives up and doesn't play. Again, you have to have standards. But pushing and yelling and getting all riled up and stuff, you need to take a step back and say, wait a minute, what's going on? Why am I getting all? If parents can be as consistent as possible, whether they win or lose, and give the same message, whether they win or lose. I mean, if she's going to get all riled up and upset and stuff, let her. She can calm down or whatever. And I have it's called the 10-minute rule. So after the child comes off the match, we have like a 10-minute where you don't, great match, or, I can't believe you lost to that kid. So there's a 10-minute time frame where you can say, okay, go get a drink or whatever. I'll meet you in 10 minutes and we'll discuss the match. Because, emotions are high. Even if they win, it's the same thing. So you're treating it the same. They win, 10-minute time break. They lose, 10-minute time break. Same thing. Same requirements. And again, if y'all just try this week, focus with your children when they come off the court, focus on their intensity level and their body language. If you just thought about those two things this tournament and looked at that, that will tell you a lot. Because if she can play really well and still lose to the girl and then go out, is it the same person or a different girl? And not move her feet and all that? Well, same girl. Then her intensity level has dropped. This intensity level thing is huge.
How do you teach that?
How do you teach that?
Yeah, how's body language taught? Because they're so unaware of their body language.
Exactly. They are so unaware of their body language.
And they're so unaware of their intensity. They don't know.
Right. Right. They don't know, this mother's saying, they don't know their body. They're so unaware of their body language and intensity level. Absolutely. We all walk around every day being unaware of ourselves. So it's about training it. And if you work with a pro or a coach, tell them about this and say, I want you to work with my children on body language, intensity level. If you focus on body language and intensity level this week, and if your kids can do the same thing when they play, you'll see a huge difference. I mean, sometimes you can see it right away when they're out on the court, but you'd have to get your pro to get on the same page with it. And the only way they're going to learn it is to do it. So like I said, when I give lessons and I teach, I say, okay, what intensity was that last shot? Oh, that was a 3. And what's your best? A 4? Okay. That's the only way they learn. Film her. Film her and look at her body language. You can just look at body language, because I know a lot of the kids will come off and say, well, I didn't do that. Oh, really? Here's the film. Yes, you did. Right? Because a picture is worth 1,000 words. So film them. And again, it's so important to have good, strong body language so that you can have strong technique and strong shots.